Well, that's something I've been thinking a lot about this week, is the concept of time and how time has been changing based on this project.
Yeah.
And one of the conclusions that I came to is that I don't think I will have answers while we're working on this project, as far as like definitively what this whole distortion means to me.
Yeah.
But I'm striving to collect moments and jot down notes and see how many of these impressions I can render on paper or during this podcast, how many of them I can collect as possible to then reflect on after the fact. But the thing in particular I was thinking about on this given week is the idea of making time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of like a classic road trip thing of wanting to do the best you can as far as getting from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. And there's this concept of making time versus wasting time, you know, and also, you know, the idea of being able to get home and have that be, you know, to have as much time as possible when you get home before you have to go to sleep. Is that a noble goal to strive for, or is that not? You know, like,
right.
Should you enjoy the time you have here? Should we sit down here for 5 minutes and just watch the beach? You know, I think most people would say, yeah, stop and smell the roses. That's a phrase, right? You know,
right.
Like you should do that. But
if you can.
If you can.
If you have the ability to smell the
right.
roses.
But I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong either with like striving to do the most efficient job as possible with walking, you know?
No, well, and it all depends, I think, on, again, the context. Like, do we want to do it as fast as possible because we just want to know what the fastest time we can walk is? Because that's kind of interesting. We've had a couple days where we've walked sub 9.5 hours, and that feels cool. And I'd love to walk sub 9 one day just to like feel like we've done it. It's that old track star within me that wants to cut the time, you know?
Right.
Shave the seconds. And like that's all about, that perspective is just, I want to see what my body can do, and time is a constant.
Right.
And it doesn't change.
Right.
The way it measures. So I can always judge and compare with myself based on what I've done within that metric.
Right.
But then if you're talking about, I just want to get home so that I have time before I go to bed, it's like, well, why? Like, what are you doing? Maybe there's something you need to do.
Yep.
Is it because I like to rest and shower, and I'd like to cook dinner, but I don't want to have to do it as soon as I get home? And, you know,
yeah.
Those are pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Is it because I just want to be able to, like, zone out and look at my phone and watch TV?
Yeah.
Like, maybe if that's the reason, maybe I do need that, like, recalibration time, but maybe that could happen on the beach here. And then I wouldn't need that zone out time at home.
Right, but then when you get home, if you only have a half hour before you can go to sleep, does that erase whatever, you know, mental relief you got from hanging out on the beach, you know?
Yeah, I guess it's, I don't know.
I think in some ways it does for me,
on,
because I get home and it's like, oh man, why did I choose to just sit around down there? Now I just immediately, I feel like a pressure to do basic sleeping activity, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think a half hour before you have to go to sleep is pretty extreme.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that.
Well, we haven't...
But that's not the same as like what if the difference is 3 hours versus 3.5 hours, and that extra half hour is just either checking out a park that I've not seen before, or taking a little break because I'm feeling like my feet want a little break and I want to look at the water, or, you know, watching something funny that's happening in real life, versus like just an extra half hour to like sit in our living room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would probably choose the half hour of enjoyment out in the world.
Yeah.
But that's like as long as I can do all the stuff that I need to do to feel comfortable as a living human.
Right. And but also another thing about this is, there are a lot of professions where you can choose to not, you can be at work if you have a desk job, or many jobs where you can just have like 15 minutes to just relax. You're on your phone, or you're doing anything that isn't your job.
Right.
A cigarette break. You know what time it's going to end. Most of the days, you're still going to leave at around the same time. Also, when we leave the house, there's no commuting.
No.
There's no period of time where you're getting to whatever it is that you're doing. As soon as we leave the house, we are on the clock, so to speak. So I think it's pretty unique in that way. And it's unique in ways where it's fulfilling to me, in that it allows me to take some guilty conscience or burden off the idea that if I'm working at a job where I can slack off without there being consequences, it makes me feel not great about the job or myself, because I'm not operating at the full capacity that I can. I'm learning a little bit more about myself when doing this, because I don't feel that same level of not, that I'm slacking or something if I use my phone for 10 minutes and sit down, because I know I'm still walking a marathon a day.
Yeah.
Like I'm clearing that bar.
Well, I think, like what you're saying about, I've also never really had a job where I'm just like there for a set amount of time. I've always had jobs where I have tasks to do, or I've worked for myself where it's like I have to get a project done. So any sort of like quote unquote slack off time is really just like on me, because then I'm gonna pick up where I left off and I need to finish the task. But I do think that this is the thing that needs to be done each day is very clear.
Yeah.
Like, you need to accumulate the miles on the pedometer, take the picture of that as the proof to ourselves.
Yes.
And then you've done it, and then you've done your job for the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to sit down and take a break, then you can. You don't have the same level of like, ooh, I don't know, for me, when I sit down and take a break and just kind of like bring my focus to something else, like if I'm at my studio, for example, I have an issue with getting myself refocused. Sometimes, like, that's where a lot of my fear on that comes from, is that like if I allow myself 10 minutes to just sort of do whatever, like zoning thing, like going on the Instagram or whatever it is, then there's the concern that I'll just get distracted and it doesn't end up being 10 minutes. It ends up being like a longer period of time, and I get kind of tired and I need a certain level of energy to actually do the work I do. Whereas with this, like, if you get kind of tired, then you walk a little slower, but then you get your energy back because it's physical and you can kind of be using your brain muscle and your thinking abilities as much or as little as you want. The only thing you really have to use is your legs and like the organs that help you live. But yeah, it's kind of just like picks itself back up, I find.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are some spur of the moment thoughts I have with respect to time. I do think it's one of the most interesting aspects of what we're doing.
Yeah.
To just have these time, like, just whole days be blocks.
Yeah.
In this way.
I guess one more thing about that, though, I think, because the perspective, we are usually on a day of walking, we are walking between 9 and 12 hours. And I think a lot of times I've noticed when people ask, oh, how long does that take? And you tell them, they're shocked by that you would spend the whole, it's the whole day.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess maybe it's just because it's walking and because it is one very obviously physical thing. But if you say, oh yeah, I had an 8-hour shift at the restaurant, you're on your feet for 8 hours.
Yep.
And like, you also have to get there and get back. So it's not like it's not really any longer of a day.
Yeah.
And most people work like a 9 to 5 is an 8-hour day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it definitely has started feeling like that. But I think that the difference is that with respect to a service job, and that is, I've been feeling a lot of the parallels, as you're mentioning, that as far as what it's taking on the toll it's taking on our bodies physically, it has become like that, where our body has normalized to this activity. So I think that's a strong comparison. Yeah.
I think this, for me at least, having had worked in restaurants a lot, I do feel more tired now than at the end of a restaurant shift.
Yeah.
And like, that's not to say that like being on your feet all day, it's real, but the like something about the constant moving forward. Whereas I guess like in the restaurants, it was a lot of like quick snaps over and around and standing still and.
Yeah. Well, I'm not talking about degree of, I guess what I'm talking about is in terms of the severity of pain and sensation that I'm feeling.
Yeah.
It's almost like a regular aches and pains service job situation.
Yeah, I guess I just disagree with that. I never felt like at the end of a long waitressing shift that I'd have to like stretch or else I'd feel sore the next day. And I do feel that now.
Yeah.
If I don't stretch at the end of the day and in the morning, and even if I do stretch, I wake up and my like legs don't bend right away.
Sure.
And it's like, yeah, I was a little younger when I was waitressing, but
yeah,
I'm not old.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm just, I feel the same way. And I guess I wouldn't feel that same way if working other physical jobs, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It isn't like the first 8 weeks there was acute pain.
Yes.
There's not acute pain anymore.
No, it's definitely like just feels a little sore. Like I feel like I feel more like, oh, we went on a workout or something.
Yeah.
Or like I went on a big hike, which is basically what we've done.
Yeah.
As opposed to, the first few weeks was like, I don't even know what what could be equivalent to what that pain was.
But as far as circling back to the time question, I think perhaps the difference in how I feel about time doing this versus how I might feel in a similar job that might take up a similar amount of time, particularly service jobs, is that the onus is exclusively on us for how the time passes. If you are serving a table, depending on how much the table is enjoying being there, you might be there longer because they want another bottle of wine, or they just they want to continue to enjoy themselves. So while there is like this expectation, even whatever closing time is or whatnot, it's that even that closing time is not set by you. It's set by the manager or the owner. So there are all sorts of things that there is this extra tier of dictation for how your time is going to end.
Yeah, I mean, I guess even comparing this to my other work, which is I own it, and I am my own boss. So I don't have anyone telling me when to show up, but the amount of work that I have at any given point still dictates like how long my days need to be and how quick I need to be moving, and it's like on me to make that schedule and make it work. And I can always hire more people, if I want to go slower or something, or give myself more time to do other stuff, I can hire more people. But yeah, I guess this particular project that you and I are doing is also fully set in that way, where the activity that we're doing is chosen by us.
Yeah.
And we've given ourselves the goal. And then the way we complete that is up to us too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Well, it's certainly different. And like I said, it's something that can't be fully unpacked until I think we're done, what all of these things mean. Because,
yeah, I mean, they're also like existential questions. So
yeah.
I don't know if they'll ever be fully unpacked.
Maybe not, but I think there'll be more perspective when we're done. I know that there also are just days where it's like, okay, you just got to keep walking,
Right.
It's not like, I don't think I ever get to a point where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore, but it's more just like, well, you don't really have an option, so you have to just keep going. And I don't know, that's when the questions of, should I relax or keep going, what's wasteful, what's not, it's hard to have those. It's hard to, I guess, think that you could come up with some sort of definitive theory on what all of this means when you still have to contend with the day-to-day of this has to be completed no matter what, I mean, not necessarily no matter what, but
No.
Basically, like, if we want to complete this, so like the philosophy on how to spend that time might be compromised at any given point with respect to the primary objective, which is finish.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Because sometimes it's like, oh, I just really like to sit right now. I'm not really like into doing this right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, I could, but like then I'm probably just going to feel worse. After a half hour of sitting and doing nothing, I'm probably just going to be like, great, well, now I feel the same thing that I felt a half hour ago, but now I'm going to be out here a half hour longer.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some days where I'm like, I don't want to walk today. Like last week, there were 2 days that it was raining all day, and the rain is cold now.
Yeah.
We got rained on in the summer, and it was warm rain, and it would get very wet, but it was like fine.
Yeah.
And then last week we got rained on twice, and full days of rain. It didn't let up at all. And you know what? It's not pleasant. I didn't like it. That's it. I'm gonna just be blunt about it. I did not enjoy those days.
Well,
but
we
like,
also were not
I did
prepared.
by the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think, but like I was fighting it. I could feel myself fighting it from basically as soon as my shoes got wet, which was probably about 3 or 4 hours in each day, until probably around 2:30 or 3 when I finally was just like, okay, I'm like so tired of fighting with myself. I'm doing this. This is like what I've chosen to do, and I need to get over it.
Yeah.
And that's so hard. I mean, yeah. It's hard to do, but it's also a really good lesson, and I feel like it applies to so many other aspects of life, especially right now when the world is like imploding and or it feels like that. It can often, if you look at the news, it feels like, oh my God, every corner of the world there's something crazy going on and it directly affects me. But in reality, you directly affect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And like you have the capability to change it. It's just really hard to get there sometimes.
Yeah.